everybody. You know what? We have got just a crazy time in the United States political field today. But I'll tell you what, we need a little sanity on both sides of the aisle. Everybody that listens to this podcast knows I'm not a fan of political problems. But why am I talking to this guest today? Because he's in the middle of it. He is got with honor. His name is Rye Barcott, and I mean, he is in the middle of the belly of the beast up there in DC with a great organization. And he also knows a few of the folks that have been on my podcast before. Welcome, Rye Barcott. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Stu. Great to be on, following Zach Nunn, Air Force vet, who popped on last week, I think.
I'll tell you what, he was such a fantastic interviewer. The bar is set really high for you right now. Of course, I was the worst podcast host that he'd ever been on. So, hey, thank you for your service, by the way. If you, any Marine, you gotta love, hug your local Marine. Well done.
Well, Marines we're known for a few things. Modesty is not one of them. And so I will note that among the caucus of veterans that with honor supports in the U.S. House, there are over 30 members, Republicans and Democrats, who have actually taken a pledge that they'll talk to each other and have trust and work on serious things together. But that group is disproportionately represented by United States Marines. So there we go.
I love the Marines. You know what's always great is there's two kinds of security alarms that you have to have in DC now, right? It's either the biggest tennis shoes that you can find and put them in the back window. Nobody's going to touch your car then, right? Size 90 shoes, right? Put them right in back. And they know that, that's probably Shaq's car. Nobody's going to ever destroy it. Or put a Marine sticker on there, and I guarantee you, no car has been stolen in DC with a Marine logo on it. I haven't been, challenged on that yet.
Yeah.
The worst thing about Rye is that everybody knows, no matter how old the Marine is, he has several million other Marines that he can call up at any moment. So you don't ever want to mess with them.
Well, I love that. In the Marine Corps parlance, that would be making yourself a hard target by doing simple things like putting the Eagle Golden Anchor on your window. I adopted that for my house, and unfortunately, I have not been able to get a dog yet. That's a conversation I'm having with my wife. But I did put out. I found signs for like $5 that says, "Beware of dog. Not responsible for injury or death."
I like that. The only reason you should have a dog is to scare so that you can reload, or why reload? Grab another gun. That's what I always say. Don't reload. But let's talk about, you're now in South Carolina, correct?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Thank you. Yep. And so with honor, you have how many constituents out there that you're working with?
Yeah, so our organization is really focused on fighting our polarization in Congress, and obviously, clearly, we've done a hell of a job.
Really?
For 5 years, and we're right around the corner to mission accomplished. But actually, what we have done is we've helped elect a next generation of veterans who have taken this pledge to serve with integrity, civility, and the courage to work across party lines. And right now in the House, there are over 30 of them. Republicans and Democrats, and we're roughly 50-50 across party lines. Our political action committees help get them elected. We're very active this cycle. We'll, on every election cycle, screen over 500 vets that end up running, and then support a handful and help them get elected, because right now the barriers to entry are really high, especially if you're not independently wealthy or networked into the political class. And right. Of course, you're deploying all over the world. You're generally your odds of being either of those two are pretty low. So what we're doing is we're working with the existing 30 members of Congress. It's a group that Zach Nunn is a part of. It's led by a Democrat, Jason Crow, Army Ranger, and a Republican, Tony Gonzalez, who's a Master Chief in the Navy and a retired cryptologist. And that group has has gotten over 150 laws that passed for the country, and really focused on
Right? Did you say
national security.
150?
150. And the average member of Congress is lucky if they see one law that gets passed that they're able to champion. But this is the power of uniting as a group, frankly, having the cohesion of having served in the military, where when I was in the Marine Corps, it did not make one lick of difference what the political party was, what the race, ethnicity. I mean, it did not matter. We had a mission that was higher than any of that, and that was for the good of the United States of America. And that's what we're about here with
I want to go on record. I do not care. Everybody says that you should be, I don't care about your race. I don't care about your creed. I don't care about your religion. I care that you're a human. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. If you don't have humanity first and being America first, I really am not kind of happy with you anymore.
Yeah.
If we're not putting America first, humanity and Christianity, and then by the way, if you want to have your own religion, that's okay too. I'm okay with that. I don't care. But let's put America, people, Democrat, Republican, I don't care. Let's be Americans. I love
and
this. This is a great message.
If you're gonna serve, serve. Listen, everybody's got an ego. We get that. I understand that. But what we're looking for are members that are going to come into this, view it as a hardship tour, not look at it as a career. This is a hardship tour for the country, just like what we did in the Marine Corps.
Take one for the
what
team.
we did in the military. And sign me up, and then I'll do my duty, and I'll citizen soldier, the citizen soldier history of America. The other thing that's really interesting about our history is that in Congress, not too long ago, I mean, within my lifetime, I was born in 1979. Within my lifetime, Congress was over 70% were veterans from all walks of life, over 70. Well, that representation now is below 20%. And we don't just think, we know that it has something to do with the dysfunction of that place, because there are just fewer and fewer places where people can just talk and have real trust across party lines and then get stuff done, because that's the only way that things are going to get done, is if you actually are able to talk to each other and trust each other and aren't just continuously subjecting every single daggone issue to a culture war.
Well, you're bringing up some really big pain points here. And when we sit back and take a look, as a military guy, my dad retired as chief of staff of the 8th Air Force. So I was around the military. Boy, try growing up around him. I mean, yes, sir, was part of my vocabulary, and I did not screw off very often, believe me. Anyway, so you don't get to that level.
Believe
yeah, you don't get to that level without yes, sir. And anyway,
Stu, you're saying he was chief of staff of the Air Force?
Of the 8th Air Force.
Of the 8th Air Force. Wow.
Yeah,
awesome.
He was a fighter pilot in Vietnam, and was shot at all the time. He was the only one that came back from Vietnam. From all of his friends, they were all shot down. So I've had some wild discussions with him, and I hated I can understand why military moms have it so tough, because I can't imagine raising me. With my dad in Vietnam, it was awful, because every night you would see an F-4 being shot down on the news, and we wouldn't know for weeks whether it was my dad or not. Military service now is different, because you can text them and say, hey, did you get back from your shift? Did you get back? It's a little different now.
It's different. It is different. But one thing that hasn't changed is that service happens both ways, and the spouses and the kids, frankly, serve too. It's an all family, all in commitment for those like your father who make it a career.
And all of his friends were shot down. He didn't make it back. I have not seen my dad cry all the way through until he was there with his mom when he was retiring. They had a whole squadron of B-52s and all the other ones about that high over. I've never seen B-52, the whole squadron go. And his
Wow.
mom was sitting there and goes, "Do you miss your friends?" And that's the first time I ever saw my dad cry. And
Wow.
I mean, that says it all right there. Guys don't forget that.
I mean,
Anyway,
for sure.
sorry, we
No,
were
no, no. I
so
appreciate you sharing it. It's like, listen, I mean, um, we're one of the first bills that this group got behind in Congress was to authorize the building of a memorial for the global war on terrorism on the National Mall, and to
nice.
recognize those that made the ultimate sacrifice. And in many of our wars, we don't actually build the memorials until half of the vets are long gone with their families, and we're going to do something different about that. So that got authorized
Nice.
last year, and now the vets are underway to recognize, especially those that made the ultimate sacrifice, and what the burden that their families carried forward after that.
This is such a you're thinking about the next generation, because like in energy, we are having a major problem with next generation coming into the workforce. Like we were talking about before the show, Duke Energy, love Duke Energy. They've always had the right way of looking at the lowest cost kilowatt per hour to their consumers, and they always try to do the right things. But when we take a look at not only energy, we take a look at uh, there's some real discussions going on. I don't know how our crew, the next generation of Marines, of Air Force men and women, could come into this bipolar mix, if you would, Democrat, Republican, trying to get things done when we have such huge issues like the border, like our budgets, and all of those kind of things. How do you recruit for that kind of a thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, I think we go back to the whole notion on service and saying, listen, you can actually make a change in the country. And by the way, I do think the trajectory of our freedoms is at stake in our lifetimes. I never really felt that when we started the organization. I thought, it's very important to serve, but I didn't think it was potentially, an existential type question in our lifetime. I do believe it is right now, and we need next generation leadership. We need adults in the room that will say, listen, I don't know all the answers. I don't know all the answers. I especially
Right.
don't know all the answers of something as complicated as, what the optimal energy mix should be in the United States. Because of course, once you
Right.
actually start drilling down in that, it's state by state, and it rests on a lot of different factors, and cost is different based on, what the energy mix, and lots of different things. But we need people that will have the humility to say, listen, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to listen with both my ears. I got one mouth, two ears for a reason. I'm
Right.
going to listen. I'm going to talk to people that have viewpoints that are different from my own. And we're going to actually, come up with something that's constructive, and it's not just going to jam down with one party vote. Why? Because what business really needs in the United States is predictability. And any
Exactly.
law that passes with just one party vote that gets jammed down is more likely than not going to get overturned or So like, let's do things that are long term and in the interest of the country, and not just always be looking for the next soundbite so that you can, drop your bomb in the culture war pile and then go raise small dollar, money off of it with these obnoxious emails that I'm sure many of us receive, saying, you give me $5 by, midnight, or, the world's going to fall down or
Yeah.
whatever.
The fun thing is that you've got your group that you're trying to help go through, and how many are Democrat, how many are Republican, roughly?
Yeah, great question. So we invest our capital to help get these vets recruited, elected, and then in office, and work alongside them, roughly 50-50 as an organization.
Oh, right.
The balance kind of shifts from depending on what cycle we're in. We were a little bit heavier Democrat in the first cycle. Now we're a little heavier Republican, but it's roughly within that sort of 60-40
Nice.
balance for the group. And you should, please check us out for the folks that are tuning in. It's at withhonor.org. You can go and see the members of the caucus. It's currently, I mentioned two of the leaders. The vice chairs are Marionette Miller Meeks, a
Nice.
really inspiring medical doctor and Army officer out of Iowa. Republican, and Mikey Sherrill, a helicopter pilot from the Navy, 4 kids, former federal prosecutor, Democrat out of New Jersey.
Let me throw this ugly squirrel at you here. I mean, this is a pretty ugly one. I was interviewing Michael Yon. Let me do a little bit of a round robin story here.
Sure.
The China has over 30 major interconnects that they can now remote into. I mean, we're talking major interconnects into the US. They can shut down gigantic sections of the grid immediately now. Part of that is the spy balloon. Remember the spy balloon that went ripping across? Well, guess what? They just admitted last week that, oh, by the way, it tied into the internet when it was here. Well, I talked to some security experts about what was going on and how that works with the technology into the grid. Well, turns out I was also interviewing Michael Yon, who is a war correspondent. He was in Panama. There is a war, a Chinese military camp in Panama that has had 10,800 people come in, Chinese military aged men come in the last 100 days.
Wow.
Now, Mayorkas, our Secretary of Homeland Security, he has videos of him landing in that in, I believe it was October last year, in that camp. I'll have to check the date. He's getting me the video. He also, that camp has been increased since Mayorkas has been there. So if we've had 10,000 military age men come in from there, Mayorkas has been to this base. The grid is now compromised because of the balloon. You can see where I'm going with this one. How can any Democrat or anyone vote against that? You know, if you're a Democrat, all Democrats have been voting for the open border, right? I'm just asking.
Yeah.
It
is. The China stuff is completely believable. We are asleep at the wheel. One of the reasons why we're asleep at the wheel is because our tribes are not talking to each other. We know we have this unified front. And Mike Gallagher, who served in the same unit as me and is in the 4-country caucus, is a great guy. He's out of Wisconsin. He's now the chair of the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Not on China, on the Chinese Communist Party. They're 2 different things. I like that bipartisan to actually work on serious issues like this one. I mean, clearly they're targeting our critical infrastructure. Let's get out of the way of ourselves and actually do something about it. And I'm glad that the vets in Congress are focused on this. I hope to see some real traction, even though it's going to be hard this year. I mean, we're in an election cycle. It's a bananas election cycle. It's going to be hard to actually keep the adults at the table and have serious conversations, often quiet, that can actually get things done. But it's so important. And just, Stu, you mentioned the immigration piece. It's not an area that I know a lot about.
Right.
With Honor, we focus mostly in national security. It is a national security issue, but it's a lot of our work is overseas, looking at China, Ukraine, Israel, et cetera. But one thing that I was always struck with was, there was an immigration proposal that was put forward in the Bush administration that has a lot of Democratic support, that has a lot of good ideas behind it, but just didn't go anywhere. And so let's find that there's lots of stuff that we can agree on. Instead of try to pack everything into doing one thing, let's address the issues, address the immediate crisis at the border. And Tony Gonzalez, who's the co-chair of the 4-country caucus, he's living this every day. He's got the largest border district right there, stretching along the Rio Grande. Let's shut this down. This is America. Clearly we can do this.
I'd love to visit with him and get how is this impacting energy? Because our group, our millions and millions of folks that read our articles are all about energy. Well,
I'm sure I'd love to talk to you. And I mean, it's another example of where here's a reasonable person who's really inspiring. He's got, 5 kids. He's a retired Navy Master Chief, one of the most respected
Wow.
ranks in the Navy,
Yeah.
cryptologist, like under, just a little over 40. And he's now got like 5 primary opponents attacking him from his right flank. Why? Because he actually talks to Democrats. He actually tries to solve problems. He tries to get things done. He co-chairs things like the Four Country Caucus. So anyhow, I'm sure I'd love to come on to the show, and would be honored to be able to connect some of those dots.
Oh, wow. But your mission is so critical right now, right? I mean, being able to talk to both sides is the only way we're going to get out of this. If we, you can't be an either or anymore. You got to be America first. If we're not America first, we're not going to make it.
That's right. That's right. And this is a group. I mean, check again. Check them out. They're good. A great group of patriots. 30 of them, all of whom rose their hand and took an oath. And that oath said that I will give, if called upon, up to and including my life for my country. I will
Exactly.
do that. Less than 1% of Americans serve now. It's
Yep.
something we're trying to do something about. We're in a recruiting crisis in the military, but less than 1% of Americans serve in the military. Less than 2% serve in any type of service, teacher, civilian service, etc. Let's serve things. This country is an amazing country, but it's not, we can't just take it for granted.
No. And right, even though the folks that when you're in the military, the guy sitting next to you going through your training, everything else, they're your buds for life. I mean, that's it. You got a bond for life. But people also don't know we're entering into some difficult times, and people don't know how they're going to react. There's always these two kinds of people: dead or the ones that react. And my wife is one of those poor that just something bad's happening and she stands there, boom, she's going to get run over by a car. I mean, it's just the way it is. I'm one of those guys that I know what bad thing is going to happen and I react and I know how I'm going to react. I've had to step in and save people. And whether you're that kind of person that will put your life on the line for others, and I know I am because I have, and it hurt. But it worked. So, my poor
And I'm sure she covers your arse in other ways as well, right?
so many different ways. Yes. I wouldn't want to be married to me, let alone
Yeah.
37 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of
Congrats.
those was a great year.
Yeah.
Now, so what's coming
By
around?
the way, Stu, I just want to share with you. I had unfortunately, it's a friend from the military that passed away,
Oh,
and one of my buddies who knew him went up to his son, and he said this line. I just love the line. He said, your father was my friend, and so I am yours.
nice.
Yeah, just that it's going to carry that forward. Um,
That means a lot to that son.
yeah.
My dad took over the wing from Jim Naylor at Dyess Air Force Base. His kids, Jim Naylor, he was a World War II pilot that bombed Germany, got his testicle shot off over Germany. That kind of, I'm a little attached to mine. I don't know about you. Anyway, so he flew the B-14 Liberator, damaged, missing part of the wing. Co-pilot's dead, and he crashed it in England. They sewed him up, and 2 weeks later, he's bombing Germany again.
Wow.
So, this guy is amazing. And so my dad after he was there and got him buried, his kids still talk to my dad all the time because he's the last link. My dad is the last link to them. Amazing. That makes a difference for vets to be able, kids to talk to the other vets.
100%. Wow. And God bless all of our World War II vets. I mean, we're less than 1% that are still alive. We were fortunate with honor to have 2 of them, including one who is doing his national funeral tomorrow. As a matter of fact, Dr. Henry Kissinger, served on our advisory board along with his friend George Schultz. George Schultz was a company commander on Iwo Jima, and Dr. Kissinger, I just reread some of his experience in World War II, which he never talked about, but he was awarded a Bronze Star for basically hunting Gestapo behind enemy lines in war-torn Germany. And
Wow.
yeah. And that service, that turmoil that we went through as a country, obviously united us, and we came out of it stronger. And it just feels like we're in a moment of time where we're rudderless. Like we need a larger calling as a country.
We need people like you, like your fellow military folks, and people with me willing to stand up and citizen journalists, if you would, to get the word out. People are tired of it, and we are Americans first, regardless of skin color. If you're a human, I care about you. You know, but let's get people here legally.
Anyway. The thing I would say too, just like thinking about the Kissinger example, and God bless him, right? I mean, over 100 years old, he was contributing to the very end, writing books on artificial intelligence. I mean, and I mean, what a giant. But I use the word hunting Gestapo. He would have taken offense at that. He would have said, no, we identified him, and then he did it in a humane way. He used the like other Germans that were turning these folks over, and he turned them over, and he was able to keep the trust in the community. It wasn't out of a place of well, anyways, that's the bottom line, is that he got the mission done, and veterans understand that when war happens, it's a failure. Like it is a failure. It can be justified for sure, and that was the ultimate just war. But it is a failure of imagination. It's a failure of leadership. And we're at a moment that feels like we could be at a brink of like a major, international war. And just think about what's happening right now in Israel and Gaza, on the Ukraine. We're about to lead a bipartisan codel to Ukraine for the second anniversary of the war in about a month. But we really we need good leaders that don't just decide that they're going to rush to banking or technology companies and maximize their private returns. I get that. This is America. It's capitalism. Like I understand, but we also need Americans that will put their hands up, serve, and then continue to serve in elected office, which is one of the least trusted and least respected jobs, but still matters for the country.
We can bring honor back.
Yes.
Maybe with honor again.
Yeah, with honor, comma again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Yeah. Or honor retreads. So if you're already a military guy, it'd be a retread. We call them. Never mind. So when you come back on the podcast again, if you'll come back again, we could call you a retread. See?
Well, of course, the answer is yes to that. I really enjoy this conversation, and I love that as an idea. I mean, listen, a lot of getting anything done in the world is communicating and communicating well, and we're a big fractured country, and we've got all sorts of different channels that are coming at us and coming at our kids, and putting poison in their minds, and what we need are good communicators that can unite us and focus on those things that can unite us, and then really get some things done for the good of our country.
Rye, how do people follow you on LinkedIn? I'll have that in the show notes. But how else can people get a hold of you or find out what you're doing?
Thanks, Stu. So best way would be to check out withhonor.org. Please sign up. You'll see a little pop there for the email. We don't do traditional emails. We keep it focused on what's really happening. It's not a fundraising tool. It's a way for you to follow and contribute to these principled veterans that are working to fix the country. And we're on LinkedIn. We're on all the platforms. I'm up on there, and would love to hear from you. And if you're interested if you've served in the military or your spouse has served, please reach out. And if you're interested in what we're doing and potentially serving again in some other capacity.
Right. Thank you so much. And I just appreciate all of the folks that you're working with up there. I want to help share, spread the word. I don't care, Republican, Democrat. I don't care if they're human and they're an American. I want to talk to them.
You
So
got it.
thank
Good
you
stuff.
so much.
You got it. Thanks so much, dude. Appreciate it.